Long before engines hummed and factories roared, before blueprints and laser levels, there was the sea and the people who understood it without needing to tame it. Among the rocky coasts and forested inlets of Scandinavia, the Vikings shaped ships not with machines but with memory, with hands, with patience, with wood and wind and centuries of knowing how a vessel should feel before it ever touched water. Tonight, we return to that world, to a time when ships were born not on conveyor belts, but beneath the open skies, in quiet clearings, where the scent of pine hung thick in the air, and the crack of an axe was a song of intention. Let your breath slow, let your thoughts settle like mist on a fjord, and step now into the Viking age, not into battle, but into stillness, into a world where craftsmanship was sacred and the sea was not crossed with force, but with understanding. In a small coastal village, morning light spills gently through the trees. It's spring. The snow has receded into memory, and the land is waking. Birds call softly overhead. Somewhere nearby, a hammer taps, steady, deliberate, not rushed. It is the rhythm of shipbuilding. Near the water's edge stands a long, half-formed hull. It rests like the skeleton of a great animal, curved and ribbed, its bones made of oak. Around it, craftsmen move slowly, attentively. They speak little. They do not need to. Their work is older than words. Viking ships, sleek, strong, and astonishingly precise, were built without nails, engines, or computers. And yet they sailed across oceans. They danced through rivers. They carried traders, warriors, families, dreams. But how? The answer lies not in tools, but in ways of seeing. First came the wood. Not just any tree would do. Shipwrights, called botbyggera, walked through forests with deep attention. They looked not just for size, but for shape, a curved root, a natural bend in the grain. These were gifts from the land, not problems to be cut away. The wood was not forced into shape, it was followed. Each part of the ship had its own tree. The keel, strong and straight, came from the heart of oak. The ribs from branches already curved. This was not wasteful, it was wise. A tree that had already weathered wind and snow carried that strength into the ship. Once chosen, the tree was felled by axe, slowly, respectfully. There was no rush. The axe, sharpened with care, bit into the wood in steady rhythm. Chips flew, sap bled, and the tree, once living, began its journey to sea. Back in the village, the shaping began. There were no power tools, no sanding machines, only axes, adzes, knives, and memory. The boat builders worked by feel, by sound. A seasoned hand could tell by the ring of wood whether it was hollow or strong. They listened, they adjusted, they trusted what had been passed down by fathers and grandfathers, not written in manuals, but lived in muscle. The long keel was laid first. It ran like a spine, low and true. Then ribs were added, curved pieces fitted into notches with quiet precision. Each rib was steamed or shaped over fire to bend gently, following the curve of the hull, and the planks, thin and overlapping, were fastened with wooden pegs or iron rivets forged by the village blacksmith. This method, called clinker building, gave Viking ships their signature look, sleek, light, and strong. The overlapping planks flexed with the waves, not against them. The ship did not fight the sea, it moved with it. Even the gaps were thought of. Strips of wool or animal hair soaked in pine tar were pressed into the seams, sealing them against the sea. The smell of tar hung sweet and sharp in the air, a scent of safety, of voyage, of readiness. But building a ship was never just about building a ship. It was a ceremony, a collaboration between humans and nature. Before a new vessel touched water, it was blessed, not always with formal ritual, but with presence, a hand resting on the prow, a whispered word to Njord, the god of sea and wind, a moment of stillness before launch. Because once afloat, the ship became alive. It creaked, it groaned, it breathed, and it carried the hopes of those who had shaped it. Now, as you rest, imagine the sounds of that Viking village, the soft chop of axe on wood, the crackle of fire warming planks, the rustle of pine trees swaying overhead, the faint, distant call of gulls over the water. There is no factory here, no motors, no harsh lights, only craft and care and a deep, patient trust in hands and timber. Let your breath move with that rhythm now, slow, intentional, like a ship under sail, because in the Viking world, to build a ship was not a task. It was a way of listening to wood, to water, to the long memory of those who came before. And as we drift now, you are there, on the edge of the sea, in a clearing of trees, where the first curve of a keel meets the ground, and the journey begins in stillness. Sleep now, as the builders shape dreams from oak, and tomorrow we'll step deeper into the bones of the ship and the minds of those who built it. In the stillness of a northern evening, when the sky faded from silver to slate and stars pierced through like silent sentinels, the shipbuilders did not always stop. Some work, they believed, was best done under the gaze of the heavens. There was something sacred in shaping the vessel that would touch both earth and sea, especially when guided by starlight and the hush of night. Tonight, the long keel lies ready, smooth, straight, carved from a single piece of old-growth oak, chosen many seasons ago. It rests on the earth like a sleeping serpent, quiet but full of potential, and around it, in the glow of a low fire, the builders gather. Let your mind drift now to that moment. The evening air is cool but not cold. The smell of resin and fresh wood lingers. Your hands are calloused but steady. The fire crackles softly. The trees around the clearing stand like old friends watching. The keel is the ship's heart. It runs from bow to stern, holding the entire vessel true. Without it, the ship cannot stay aligned. And so, this piece of wood is chosen with more care than any other. The builders have walked far for this tree, through dense forests, across icy rivers, guided by knowledge older than maps. They searched not just for size or strength, but for spirit. The tree must not only be whole, but willing. A straight trunk, a quiet presence, a whisper in the grain that says, "I am ready." When they found it, the tree was honored. A small offering may have been placed at its base, some bread, a carved charm, a few murmured words to the land spirits, and when it fell, it did so with dignity. The forest, for a moment, held its breath. Now, weeks later, that same trunk has been transformed, shaped, smoothed, hollowed in just the right places. A slight upward curve at each end, the signature of Viking design, allowing the ship to ride the waves instead of resisting them. The keel is laid into its cradles, It does not creak, it settles, and the builders pause, not from fatigue, but from reverence. They sit quietly beside the fire, passing a bowl of warm broth or carving small wooden tokens as they rest. They speak softly, if at all. The crackle of the fire, the occasional hoot of an owl, and the distant lapping of waves are all the sound that's needed. You are there, too. Wrapped in a wool cloak, you watch the shadows flicker on the hull. The ribs will come next, curved timbers that rise like the bones of a creature taking shape. But not tonight. Tonight is for the keel. In Norse belief, the world itself rested on a great tree, Yggdrasil, its roots that held the underworld. Its trunk passed through Midgard, the realm of men. Its branches touched the heavens. And in some quiet way, the keel mirrored this idea. A ship was not just a vessel, it was a world in motion. It would carry people across waters, through storms, between lands. It needed balance, strength, spirit. That's why the Vikings didn't rush. Each rib would be steamed and bent to fit. The builders used no blueprints, only memory and instinct. They had built dozens of ships before, maybe hundreds, and each one was different, shaped by the particular tree, the season, the purpose. Was this a warship, fast and narrow, or a cargo vessel, wide and steady? The ship would speak, and the builders would listen. This way of building wasn't just functional, it was relational. The builders didn't force the wood, they worked with it. And as the keel lay under the stars, the firelight danced across its grain, revealing subtle patterns, gentle swirls, tiny knots, marks of time, of storms weathered, of growth rings recording seasons long past. It was more than timber. It was memory, motion, and meaning, waiting to take form. Now, as your breath deepens and your limbs grow heavy, imagine lying near the edge of the firelight, the sound of voices fading into silence, the warmth of wool beneath you, the scent of tar and smoke and pine. The keel rests, you rest, and in the spaces between heartbeat and dream, you hear the ship begin to whisper, not with words, but with promise, a promise of water beneath the hull, wind in the sails, stars above, and the deep, steady trust that what was shaped with care will carry you true. Drift now with that feeling, and tomorrow will rise with the sun to watch the ribs curve upward like wings and the ship begin to breathe. As the morning mist lifts from the fjord, it reveals the shape of something coming to life. Not yet a ship, not yet seaworthy, but close. The keel lies firm, and from it ribs rise in graceful curves, arching like the bones of a giant sea creature resting on the land. The builders move slowly around it, checking angles, adjusting curves, measuring not with rulers, but with eyes that have seen 100 ships built before. The air smells of sap and smoke and damp earth. Somewhere in the distance, a raven calls, and the soft rhythm of carving resumes. This is not industry. This is patience. This is the moment when the vessel begins to show itself. Let yourself settle into this moment now. The fire is still warm from the night before. Ash drifts gently in the morning light. A boy carries a bucket of water from the nearby stream, steam rising as it meets the cold air. An elder builder crouches beside a rib, running his hand along its curve, checking for weakness. The others wait. He nods. The work continues. Each rib is made from wood, that already carries a bend. That's the secret. Vikings didn't try to force a straight plank into a curve. They searched the forest for branches that had grown in just the right way, a tree that curved toward the light or bent beneath snow for seasons on end. These curves were not flaws, they were the beginning of strength. The chosen pieces are steamed gently, held over fire or placed in hot water, softened just enough to shape, never to break. Then they're bent into place, lashed, fastened, allowed to settle, and one by one, the ribs rise. Each rib is like a breath, a pause, a line in a long, silent poem. From the outside, the structure begins to look like a cradle or a rib cage, open, waiting, ready to hold something sacred, and in a way it is. These ships were not just tools, they were companions, travelers, protectors. The Vikings believed that every part of the ship held meaning, that the keel was the spine, the ribs were the breath and bones, the planks were the skin, and the sail, once raised, would be the breath of life. But that is still to come, for now the ship is being framed, and the builders know that every rib must be just right, too tight, and the ship will resist the sea, too loose, and it will flex and fail. Balance is everything, so they check and recheck. They listen, not just to each other, but to the wood. If you were to walk among them, you'd hear few words, a quiet suggestion, a gentle hum, the soft creak of timber, the rasp of an adze shaving a curve just slightly smoother. The work is almost meditative, and all around the land is quiet, watching. Even the birds seem to give space, because something sacred is forming. Imagine now, sitting in the grass nearby. The sun is just beginning to climb. You can see your breath in the cool air. The ship's ribs rise before you, casting soft shadows on the ground. They form an arc, not too steep, not too flat, just enough to part the waves gently when the day comes. You reach out and touch the wood. It's warm from the shaping. You can feel the grooves left by careful hands. Generations of knowledge live in those lines. This is how ships were made for hundreds of years, without instructions, without designs, just trust, just rhythm, just attention. Later, when the ribs are set, the planks will come, long, overlapping boards that will wrap around the frame like the skin of an animal. But even then, the process is slow. No one hurries, no one cuts corners. Because if the ship is to meet the sea, it must first be whole on land. And so, as the sun rises higher and the birds begin to sing, the builders continue. They bend, so they shape, they breathe, and the ship begins to stand, not on legs, but on promise, that it will carry lives across water, that it will meet storms and not falter, that it will glide through rivers and oceans with the strength of the forest still alive in its bones. Let your breath fall in rhythm with that now. In, outside, smooth as carving. Let your thoughts drift like curls of wood shaved from a fresh plank. There is no urgency here, only craft, only care, only the rising of ribs in a quiet clearing where men and wood and wind all work as one. And as you rest, know this. Every great journey begins in stillness, and the ship, though not yet finished, is nearly ready to dream. The ship is taking shape now. Where once there was only the long, sleeping line of a keel and a scattering of ribs in the grass, there now rises the outline of something living, something graceful, something true. The curve of the hull is no longer imagined. It is visible. The spine has grown bones, and the bones are being wrapped in skin. The planking has begun, and with it, the ship begins to breathe. Let yourself enter that world again. It is afternoon now. The light filters through the pine trees at an angle, golden and soft. A breeze carries the scent of tar and fresh shavings. The clearing by the water hums with quiet activity. It is not noise, it is motion. Wood against wood, voices low, fire crackling in the distance. You walk slowly toward the builders. They are fitting a long plank into place, curved, narrow, tapered at the ends. It slides beneath the last, overlapping it slightly. This is clinker building, the ancient technique the Vikings mastered. Each board laid edge over edge like the scales of a fish, strong, flexible, light. They do not use glue. They do not force the shape. Instead, they coax. The plank is steamed first, softened by heat. It's then held, shaped, and fastened into place with wooden pegs or iron rivets. The builders work in pairs, one inside the growing hull, holding a small anvil called a clamp iron, the other outside, hammering gently. A rhythm passes between them, steady as a heartbeat. Tunk, pause, tunk, pause. With every stroke, the ship grows stronger, and yet it remains light, lighter than you'd think. A Viking longship could be carried overland by a team of men, hauled from river to sea, from sea to lake. Its bones were strong, but its skin was supple. It flexed with the waves. It rode over them, not through them. Now the gaps between planks are packed with oakum, fibers of wool or flax soaked in tar. It's pressed into the seams with careful fingers. This is what keeps the sea out. And still, the ship is not sealed tight like a barrel. It breathes. It moves. It belongs to the water, not against it. The scent of pine tar drifts across the clearing, sweet, sharp, familiar. It is the smell of voyage, of stories waiting to begin. The builders pause to wipe their hands. A few sit on stumps or logs nearby, drinking from wooden cups. Their arms are marked with resin and dust, their faces calm. This is not the exhaustion of industry. It is the quiet of purpose. A child walks along the edge of the ship in progress, trailing fingers along the planks. His grandfather beckons him closer, hands him a small carving tool. Not to use yet, only to hold. The skill will come in time, but the feel of the tool, the scent of the wood, the sound of shaping, these things must be remembered in the body. Because this knowledge isn't written, it's passed down, one hand to the next. Now imagine sitting on the ground beside the growing hull. You lean back into the grass, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face. The light glints off the iron rivets. The curve of the ship is elegant, narrow at the bow, sweeping broad at the center, tapering again at the stern. It looks fast, even at rest. This was no accident. Viking ships were designed to cut through water like a whisper. Their shallow drafts let them slip through narrow rivers, close to shore, even across land when needed. And yet they crossed oceans. They sailed from Norway to Iceland, from Iceland to Greenland, from Greenland to the shores of North America, all without compass, without engine, without fear. Because the ship was right. Because it was built with knowing. The sail has not been raised yet, but it waits, folded nearby, a great square of woven wool, dyed with ochre or rust, stitched by women whose hands knew the sea by proxy. The mast will rise soon, the rigging will be added, but for now, the hull is nearly whole, and in the golden light of the afternoon, you see it clearly. This is not just a boat, it is a living thing, a collaboration between forest and fire, between water and will. And as you sit there, eyes half closed, breath soft and slow, you feel that collaboration reaching you too. You are part of it now, not a builder, perhaps, but a witness, and that is its own kind of magic. So rest here a while longer. Listen to the birds in the trees. Hear the gentle knock of hammer on wood. Feel the hush of creation, the reverence of those who shape not for profit, but for purpose. Because what rises here is more than timber. It is trust. It is travel. It is a path laid not over land, but through water, memory, and time. And as sleep comes to meet you, you might just hear the ship sigh, a low, wooden sound, like breath drawn before a song. Tomorrow, the sail will rise, and the sea will call, the ship is finished. Where once there was only the whisper of an idea, wood scattered on forest floor, firelight flickering over unshaped logs, there now rests a vessel complete. The ribs are strong, the keel is true, the planks overlap like the feathers of a resting bird, and above, rising like the spine of the sky, the mast reaches high, waiting for the wind. Today, the ship will meet the water. Let your breath ease now. Let your thoughts settle. You are standing on the shore of the fjord. The tide is low, and the stones at the water's edge glisten with morning dew. Behind you, the longhouse village is quiet. All are gathered here, barefoot in the cold grass, watching. It is not a loud event. There are no horns, no drums, just the sound of the sea, breathing in and out, and the ship, resting on its wooden supports, silent, ready. Before the launch, the builders walk the length of the hull one last time. Their hands touch the planks gently, as if greeting a friend. One of them places a carved charm beneath the prow, a token of protection, of guidance, of gratitude, not a superstition, a gesture of respect. The sail hangs loosely from the yardarm. Thick wool, woven by many hands, colored in earthy tones, deep red, faded gold, not bright but bold. The ropes are coiled neatly, waiting. Then, at a word, the villagers begin to push. The ship slides slowly forward over greased wooden rollers. The creak of timber, the crunch of gravel beneath the weight, and the muffled hush of breath held all around. And then, with a soft splash, the keel touches water. The ship floats, not as an object, but as a being, alive, buoyant, light upon the sea that now cradles it like a returning child. A cheer rises, not wild, but warm, the kind of joy that comes not from surprise, but from knowing. This was always meant to be. Let yourself rest in that moment. The water laps gently at the hull, the wind stirs, the sail lifts slightly, catching the light. A bird circles overhead, as if curious. And on the shore, Children peer wide-eyed at the vessel they've watched rise from earth to sea. This ship, like so many before it, will carry more than people. It will carry stories. It will glide over the silver skin of the fjords into the open sea toward distant coasts, perhaps to trade or to explore, perhaps to carry home a traveler or return with tales of strange lands and stars unfamiliar. But it will carry these things gently, because it was built that way, built to move with the waves, not against them, built with the knowledge of trees, of hands, of time. Even now, in rest, the ship rocks softly with the rhythm of the water, as if breathing, and nearby an elder builder sits watching. His hands are scarred and strong. His eyes are quiet. He does not speak because there is nothing left to say. The ship says it all. It says, I was made with care. I was shaped with respect. I am ready. In the days to come, the ship will be provisioned, loaded with tools, furs, salted fish, barrels of honeyed mead. Weapons too, perhaps, if the journey demands it. But today is not about where it will go. Today is about what it is. And what it is perfect. Not in the modern sense, not precise to the millimeter or engineered to digital standards, but perfect in its harmony, perfect in its fit with sea and sky, perfect in the way it carries the memory of forest and fire, of hand and hope. Now, as you close your eyes, you can feel the slow movement of the water beneath the hull. You are aboard now, lying on a bed of furs near the mast, the gentle creak of ropes, the scent of wool and pine tar, the whisper of the breeze through the sail, no engine hum, no artificial light, only nature and the craft of human hands guiding you forward. Above, the stars begin to blink into view. The ship sways gently. You do not need to steer, not yet. The current holds you. The wind begins to speak. This is the gift the Vikings left behind, not just in museums or sagas, but in this way of shaping the world, with listening, with patience, with respect. The ships they built are long gone, but the methods, the spirit, remains. In wood, in wind, in water. So drift now, as they once did, not in conquest, but in calm, not in search of land, but in deep rest. Let the sea rock you, let the past hold you, and may your dreams carry you far, on ships built not with machines, but with meaning.